Welcome to the Bike Life podcast by Warmshowers Foundation, where we will be sharing knowledge, experience, tools, and stories of touring cyclists and hosts from around the world. I'm Tara Lee, the woman behind the scenes at Warmshowers Foundation, the leading platform for cyclists looking for hosts and to connect with a passionate international community. Find out more by visiting us at Warmshowers.org. Now, on to the show. Today's guests began sharing their stories around their cycle touring with Nike, MIT, and the Princess Cruises before Kristen wrote the book called Joyride, A Bike Odyssey from Alaska to Argentina. They currently just finished a national book tour, and I'm really excited to hear all about their adventures, their journeys, and where they've been. So welcome, Ville and Kristen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I'm really excited, and especially because you've experienced so much of Warm Showers along the way and recorded it and shared it as a way to inspire and create action for others. So I'm really excited to hear how you do that now. And of course, what's next, we'll get to that. But let's start with you, Ville. Introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how this journey started for you, and maybe a little bit about you and Kristen.
Yes, this goes all the way. Hi, I'm Ville Jokinen from Finland originally, and my story with this second part of this crazy circus starts in 2008 in Vietnam. I was there after working too much in corporate finance, and I needed a break. And I went to Southeast Asia for 3 months. And I was in Vietnam and scuba diving, and I saw this girl that I was interested in, and we were on a diving boat. And I was after the first dive, we had 2 dives, and it was after the first dive that she climbed. We had a little break, and she climbed on the top of the boat and she jumped. And so I was like, all right, we have some downtime. I'm gonna go talk to her. And so I also climbed to the top of the boat, and I jumped pretty close to her, and I jumped head first, but I forgot to tie my shorts, the string, and so my body goes nicely through the surface. My shorts stay on the surface right in front of her, so I had to come and get them from her, and so that's how we met. And that was 2008, and we then, after that, we kind of went back and forth, Finland and the US a lot, traveled in different places just because of the visa regulations. And then 2011, we hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. And then I realized she didn't kill me after 5 months in a tent together, that I need to propose to this lady. And so I did. And 2012, we got married. And yeah. It's been a roller coaster since, but a beautiful one.
And here we are. I love that story so much. That is wonderful. And Kristen, introduce yourself and tell us how that intro was for you.
Yeah. My name is Kristen Jokinen, and I'm from Bend, Oregon. And I was doing an internship in Thailand through my university and teaching, and then took off for a break. And yeah, it was this big 2-story scuba diving boat. And so, I went for a swim, and this crazy flying Scandinavian stallion came, swan diving over me, and lost his shorts. And I was so impressed, folks, that here we are. Babe, what is it, 16 years later? It was a real icebreaker, right, Ville? Yeah. So then that is how we met. We ended up traveling 10 days together. And like Ville said, we did a lot of back and forth. Funny enough, the Pacific Crest Trail, for those that don't know what it is, Pacific Crest Trail is in the U.S., and it goes from the border of Mexico into Canada 2,655 miles. Anybody who's read Wild knows a little bit about it. Cheryl Strayed wrote that book and had hiked some of the PCT. But a 2011 highest snow year on record. And Ville and I flew from Finland with 2 weeks to just gather gear and go. And we had never spent a single night in a tent together before doing that trip. We just, on a whim, I was like, I'd heard about this trail. This is before Wild came out, so almost not a lot of people knew about it. We just decided to charge into it and do it. And we really fell in love with that adventurous life of living with less, whatever you could just fit in a backpack, and going for an adventure. And it was on that trail that somewhere kind of in the wilds of Washington that we had chatted about, well, this is fun, but this is moving really slow and you're always in that tree tunnel on a hiking trail. So it was like, let's try something totally different. And it was, Ville had said, I think you can travel by bike. And so that's how the bike touring, even the seed was planted. It was, we, excuse me, we bought a house in Bend, Oregon, and we had to gut it all the way to the studs for a year and a half, remodeling it together. And anybody out there who's done a house remodel or lived through a house remodel with your spouse knows you would much rather be biking from Alaska to Argentina for 2 years than doing a house remodel together. So that is how we ended up on the bike tour. Was we were in that, we hated it, and we're like, let's talk about that bike tour again. Ville said, I want to see South America, and I said, I want to see Alaska. And we just decided, let's throw it all together, rented our house for 2 years. That's how we funded the trip. $800 per month was what was left for our budget. And we just bought bikes. We did 10 miles up and back on the road. That's all the biking we did. It was Ville's first bike in 10 years, babe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we were not cyclists at all, you could say. We put these bikes in boxes and we flew to a place called Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, which is the northernmost place of the Americas with a road. It is so far north, there are polar bears, and there's one lone road that's 500 miles to Fairbanks that only has about 100 miles of, you'd call it pavement, is being generous, and one lone gas station halfway. And that's where we started this crazy wild adventure that would take us 2 years and over 18,000 miles to finish.
Wow. Okay, when was that? What was the date that you arrived in Alaska?
So we started in 2016, June, and we finished in February, end of February, March in 2018.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah, wild ride.
So get into it. Like, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, specifically around, first, what made you start to document and share your journey? Because I know that you had a blog before the book. So, like, what made you start sharing it? And were you just sharing it with, like, your family and friends so people would know where you're at and what's going on, which typically happens? And did you start to gain traction? Were people reading and living through, vicariously through your share?
Yeah, that is how it started. Ville, like he said, is from Finland, and I'm from Oregon, and he has family in Norway, and we have family all over the world and friends. So you can't call every single person and say, hey, I'm alive, and here's where I am, here's your update. So that's how the blog started, was just to update the family, friends, and everywhere from all over what we were doing and where we were going. And then as you go, it gained a lot of traction, and we had a lot of followers that were reading along the way, because at some point, I mean, it is really, really difficult for those out there. I think a lot who do tour know, carrying a laptop, like a full-size laptop, so that you could do a proper blog and download photos and a full frame lenses and camera to be able to document the journey is absolutely painful when every ounce matters in your panniers. And so there's many a times where we would have a day off, be able to take a day off, and I wanted to just go walk around the town or see sights, and I'm spending the whole day trying to write a blog and update people, and was very ready to quit on numerous occasions and throw it off a cliff. And everybody kept saying, no, 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 please keep writing. I love your writing. I'm really enjoying living vicariously through you both. So that's why we kept doing it, and I kept it up. And so, yeah, so that's how we got to about here.
I know you mentioned that you met a lot of Warm Showers hosts along the way. Let's start with Ville. What were some of your favorite experiences?
I think just the community in Warm Showers, that you feel like right away that you're coming home almost to like a family that we're all bike-minded, at least, or like we understand what it means to travel by bicycle. So there's a lot of those first the questions that we get from other people, those are not there because they already know that what we're after. We need a hot shower and just some just the rest and things like that, and that there's this like understanding of what when we get there and exchanging ideas and exchanging stories. I think that's the one of the best parts. And usually at Warm Shower hosts, when we stayed, we came up with a different route to our route that we had been thinking about. They had recommendations, if there was some other writers staying at the house, then they would say, oh, they were saying like, yeah, I just came from there, and here's some recommendations on the route. Um, there was a couple of times on the Oregon coast and Northern California coast when it was raining so much because it was October, November, that we stayed, for example, a church, and there was probably 20 of us in there. So these are probably one of my warmest memories are from these, like this beautiful community of people, like-minded people,
Yeah.
all staying in one spot, and it just you know it's a beautiful thing, warm showers.
Thank you for sharing that. And Kristen, you wanted Alaska, right? So do you feel like you really fulfilled your desire to see the parts of Alaska that you were hoping to see and experience by bike?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you get more wild Alaska than the Dalton Highway, to be totally honest. It is, for those who haven't been there, it's been on the Ice Road Truckers show that the truckers are driving on ice up in the wilds of Alaska. That is this road. It's been on World's Dangerous Roads and few number of other things. Didn't know that before I went on it. Who knew? Um, and so, but yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Up there, we got to see lots of animals, lots of owls and eagles and tons of birds, a lot of moose. A lot of them were having babies at the time. We didn't see a lot of bears on that stretch. We did see those more in Canada, but we did see bears, a lot of bears, like 60 bears. Fun when
Wow.
you're in a car, not as fun when you're on a bike.
Really? 60? Wait, pause. 60 bears in Canada?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, about 60. We saw mainly black bears, but we did have a couple run-ins with grizzlies also. So, um, yeah, that was fun.
I'm just curious. Are there any bear stories that you need to tell us? Because that's fascinating and
Yeah.
scary, a little bit scary.
Yeah, so there was one evening we were coming down a steep hill at dusk, looking for camping. Cassiar Highway, I think we were on in BC. And so we had come down this steep hill. We're fully loaded. So those cyclists out there were, 100 pounds with 4 panniers and water and all our gear, roughly, with all the weight. No, not going anywhere fast, basically. We're like driving to dump truck. So down a hill, and we have an uphill straight in front of us when we got to the bottom of the wash. This is spring. So all the bears were out in force, right? They just came out of hibernation and now they're eating like crazy. So a lot of berries were growing on the side of this road. And this bear came out right in front of us, this black bear, out from eating on the side of the wash. And Vila and I stopped and we put our bikes between us and this bear. And all of a sudden, her 2 cubs came out right behind her and were cowering right behind her. So all of a sudden, she became super protective, as mother bears do. And we discovered at this moment, it was Ville, hey, where is that bear spray can? Those ones we bought up in Bruto Bay at the, the grocery store or the market. And it was like, yeah, mine's buried in the bottom of my pannier. Where's yours? Yeah, holy, am I allowed to say
Yes.
SHIT? Okay, shit. So is mine buried at the bottom of my bag. So we were pretty terrified because she had pinned her ears and she was snorting and she started charging us. And all we had was bikes between us. And so she was so close we could see her canines and her eyes and her claws, which are massive, hear them on the pavement. And didn't know what to do, but we knew that we had to do something. And I think as we felt like it was hours, but it's maybe 30 seconds, couple minutes, we're standing there frozen as she's charging toward us. When she's about 10 feet away, all of a sudden we both just realized like, we have to do something. We started raising our hands in the air and screaming and yelling and trying to make ourselves be bigger than her. And all of a sudden it startled her out of her charge. And she dove into the trees to the side, and her little cubs like fell over themselves and dove in behind her. And we sat there like, oh my God, did that just really happen?
Wow.
And so it took us a minute. I think we rode like another 10 miles. We were so ready to camp, and we rode another like 10 miles to go camp. I think Ville was like taking sticks and hitting trees and trying to really make sure that there are no bears around. Um, but yeah, it was a very terrifying experience, but dodged that bullet.
I'm hoping that you had your bear can spray more handy after that.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
knew that they make that little thing so that it goes on the side of your belt for a reason?
Wow. I mean, I can only imagine. And did any other bears get any closer? We don't need to go down the bear rabbit hole more, but I'm super fascinated. Did any other bears get closer?
I,
Yeah.
I
Ville
think there
had
was
startled a
yeah, there was a
grizzly.
grizzly that I startled. That one was I was like, because they say it either charges or it runs away. It makes that this isn't like that, and so it was. She startled it. She was in the front, and it started running. And I just hear, and you could hear right away. This is something big. This is either a bulldozer or this is a big animal.
Right.
And when it kind of ran out of the bushes into a more open area, and I saw how big this thing is, and yeah, we have some big bears in Finland, brown bears, but this guy was big, and I was like, oh my God, thank goodness it decided to run and not attack, because I don't think there would have been nothing left of me if that thing would
Mm,
have found me. Yeah, that one was like I was really shaken up after that for a while. Well, both of the one that she told too, but yeah,
mm-hmm.
And by the
yeah,
Yeah.
way,
you
sorry.
realized you to respect them. You're just like, okay, there's you don't wanna mess with those guys.
This is only in the first 2.5 months of a 2-year bike ride, by the way. So we haven't even got to Oregon yet.
Yeah.
Like, this is just in Alaska and BC and Yukon. So, yeah.
Wow. So are you sharing these stories on your blog too? Like I'm assuming a little, did you water it down for your family that was reading, or did you give the full story?
I watered down a lot of the stuff, and it was more just like a generalized, here we are, here's the route, this is what we've encountered in the last. The book was way more of a deep dive into the storytelling behind a lot of these adventure stories. And it really, really focuses on the humanity and the kindness of this journey. So, although we all know that we're traveling for an adventure, Ville and I are in this type of travel life and these journeys to make these connections and meet people and learn from different ways that people do things around the world. And I think that was the coolest thing about this bike ride. And then what I tried to write in this book was making these connections, warm showers and or otherwise, all the random people that we met along the way. We didn't have a lot of money. And so we had spent over 500 nights of the 2 years was in a tent in mostly people's backyards, rodeo grounds, Red Cross buildings, churches, you name it, farms. We stayed absolutely everywhere, porches. And we only got a hotel, I think, once we got down to Mexico South, we could afford hotels where they're more like $9, $10 a night. And that's where every 4 or 5 days we get a hotel to get a hot shower. But otherwise, it was mainly in people's yards. And it's just incredible to make these connections. And our hope in actually writing this book, and I'm sorry, this is all I have for my book. This is the cover. I just had a huge event here in Bend, and I'm like, everybody's already read this book, and I massively sold out of all of my books. So this is all you got is the bookmark left. But my book, the whole goal was to encourage people to realize that it's actually easier to do these things than you think. We are more powerful and bigger and can accomplish more than we actually realize. It's not just a freak thing. I know we're two crazies, but it's not just a freak thing that we made it Alaska and Argentina. There's a lot of amazing people out there that helped us along the way, that wanted us to be successful, that we got to meet and connect with and make these, build these relationships with. And that's across 15 countries in just this tour alone on this journey. So it was absolutely beautiful.
So how long did it take you to settle in when you got back? I'm assuming you went back to Oregon. Both of you went back to Oregon, or did you go back to Finland first when you got to Argentina? Where was the first flight?
So yeah, the very first flight was from Ushuaia to Buenos Aires, and we stayed there almost a week with a Warmshowers host there, and we became friends since. We've gone to visit them again. Just enough story. But we came back actually on a boat from Buenos Aires to LA, 30 days. Kristen's grandparents paid for that, and then we took a train from LA to Bend, basically, or Portland, and we had talked about this on the bike ride, that what do we want to do with the house, because we were so happy in a tent, and we came back, finished doing the renovations to the house that we wanted, and then we sold it, and yeah, I guess we've been traveling since then, and yeah.
Yeah,
How
I would say we
amazing.
haven't adjusted well, if that's your question, to real life
Right.
after a
You're
journey
still
like
not ready.
this.
You're still not ready to.
Yeah.
So,
No.
okay, so talk a little bit about the book, and we're gonna put a link to the book in the notes, because I know you just completed a big tour, a book tour. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I want you to tell the story about when Ville first got to read your draft of the book.
Yeah. So Ville was adamant that he would not read the book until it was done, until it was a finished in book format. And I had started writing this book because Ville and I have been speaking in schools mainly, but also, like you said, some other corporate and business events. But mainly in schools, we came back to volunteer our time because we had met such amazingly kind people. We were in traveling through Mexico when the last administration had changed, and there was tension between U.S. and Mexico, and we were not exactly sure how it would be perceived, and we needn't have worried because the Mexican people were so absolutely incredibly nice to us. Go travel Mexico, cyclists out there, absolutely incredible food, parties, people are so nice, and on the roads, they're just so incredibly kind. So we had great experiences. We came back to speak in schools. We did so many for the last 13 years, I think, volunteering our time to speak to students, trying to inspire the next generation to do amazing things. And the book grew out of it. Enough people asked, I want to hear more of the story. So that was why I wrote the book, was to share those stories, particularly the stories of kindness and connection. And then my book was picked up by a publisher, Hawthorne Books out of Portland, Oregon, a small indie press and woman-owned company. And she absolutely loved the story and wanted it to be a book. And then we were on our way, Ville and I were on our way to New Zealand to bike pack top to bottom. And I said, can I still do this bike ride? And she said, sure. I'm sure she had no idea, has never worked with an author who's literally on a bike tour trying to do edit work to her own book, but that's okay. So we finished the bike ride. We got all the edit work done. We came back. My book came out in May last year, 2023. My launch was at Powell's Books. It's the biggest bookstore in the world in Portland, Oregon. It was an amazing event. It was totally packed and such a cool experience. And then I got to tour all the West Coast. And when I did that, lots of people packed us and added us to the tour. So we ended up doing over 45 events, which is insane for a book tour, all the way across the country, all the way to DC and zigzagging all the way back. Along the process in New Zealand, while my book was being edited, my publisher had sent my book to Cheryl Strayed, who had read it and absolutely loved it and was super inspired and agreed to write the introduction, which she hasn't done to any other book, which I'm insanely grateful for. And so Cheryl Strayed had done my introduction. A bunch of other people had got my book and were reading it and blurbing it. Blurbing is the little bits they write about the book on the cover. And then, so Ville still hadn't read it. All these other people are reading it. He doesn't even know what's in it. Big mistake, Ville. Big mistake.
I know.
So then my book got finished. We came back from the New Zealand adventure, and my book is now in a galley, which is in a marketing format of a book. It looks just like the book, but a little bit smaller, and it's for marketing people and magazines and things to review. And so that's when I picked up the marketing galley from my publisher, right when we got back in beginning of March of last year. And Ville read it, right, in a couple days. What did you think of it, babe?
I thought it was okay.
I've read better.
No, it was nice because I actually flew to Finland just for a couple of weeks because I knew that this book tour would be full on and I couldn't leave during it, and so I got to read it by myself because it was a lot of laughing, a lot of crying. Yeah, I read in general quite a bit, but it's a weird book to read when it's our story, and then I can see everything, and I'm thinking like, wow, she's a really good writer. I can see all this so clearly, but then I'm like, wait a minute, I was there. So it's something that I've never read anything like that, obviously, because nobody's written a book about me or my wife before. So, but yeah, it brought back all those memories, and yeah, it was happy tears and just laughter and yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Are you still cycle touring now?
We're
Yes.
currently, so yes, we are. So we've done so when we came back and like I told you, we sold the house. And after that, we did Finland to Croatia, through the Baltics and into the Balkans. And then COVID happened. And so we were grounded for a couple of years. And then we biked Spain, the Sunshine Coast, Costa del Sol. And then after Spain, we went to do the New Zealand. And then we had the book tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Next
just
6 months.
Yeah, and we just spent, you could say we spent December in Cuba biking around in Cuba, and now on the 4th of February we're flying to South Africa, and we're starting to go north and until we can't go no more. And so Africa is
Amazing.
next. Yeah.
You're both such an inspiration of not of just cycle touring, but of embracing the humanity part, the experience of not needing to feel rooted in order to feel rooted, right? And not
Thank you.
needed to be. Yeah, I can feel that in both of you. And thank you for, I mean, I know you're in the same place, but in separate rooms, so we can have this great this great interview, and I'm really excited to check out your book. I am going to put the link in the show notes. And are there specific places that people can follow you on this next journey that you're on, social media, or do you still have the blog going?
Yes. So all the above. We are on all the socials. You can find us Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all the things. We're better at some than others, more regular at some than others, but on We Lost the Map. And then if you go to welostthemap.com, our website, you can find videos that Ville has made. He is super gifted at making little video shorts and posting them on the website and or links to. Yes, there's the blog on there if you want to read about all the other trips Ville talked about. Those are on the blog on our website. I've since, because of the book, I've had to move a newsletter. So most of the blog is now turned into a monthly newsletter that's on Substack that you can subscribe to. Again, We Lost the Map on Substack. If you subscribe, it'll just come to your inbox as soon as I do an update, which is a lot easier than our website. You just had to keep checking when I'd have a new blog post in there. So yes, you can follow us in all those spaces, and we will be trying to put out some videos and updates and write about our journeys as we go. And you can, we would love to see people also along the journeys. So if you know that we're heading your way, or you know somebody in our path or has done certain adventures before, we'd love to hear from you, and any feedback or putting us in touch with people. Our goal is to see the world, but it really is to make those connections with people along the way. And that's what we enjoy doing. So anybody out there, we'd love to see you on your journeys. And I think I covered it. My book, yes. Book, sorry. You can find my book in any bookstore across the US. I'm not sure if it's yet in any, maybe UK, some bookstores, and New Zealand bookstores, but I'm not so sure on the bookstores yet globally. You can buy it online, but I highly encourage you to purchase my book, and it's also on Kindle. It should be on audio at some point soon. It's just not there yet. But I encourage you to shop local if you can, to keep our small businesses in business, and the small indie bookstores. They're, really struggling to stay alive. So let's go shop there if you can. And otherwise, please leave a review after you've read it. If you enjoy it, it really helps other people to be able to find the book. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for
Definitely
following us. Thank you for connecting with us, and thank you for staying involved with us. You are our friends. You are our network. I wrote in my book that I had dedicated my book to all of you. It's all the people that have helped us and connected with us along the way, because without all of you, we would never make these journeys. So thank you, everybody out there, for that.
Thank you.
And thank you,
And with
Ville.
that, we will thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. We look forward to reading more about your journeys, and definitely everyone that's listening, make sure that you check the links, follow them, and stay in touch. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for this. This is great.
This has been great. And for those of you listening, make sure you give us a rating and review, whatever platform you're listening. And if you're on YouTube, hello, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so we can let you know when all new shows come up. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed making it. Wherever you are listening, please leave us a rating and a review, as it helps us reach more cyclists and hosts around the world. Visit us at Warmshowers.org to become a part of our community, or on Instagram at Warmshowers_org. If you would like to be a guest on the show or submit a question, please make sure to email us at podcast@warmshowers.org.